Davin peeps, and welcome to another video. Today's video is going to be a journal with me using the lovely supplies from the Jane Davenport range, of course, but I thought I'd just check in and do a little bit of an intro. Now I am going to be using the stamps, as you can see here, these little eye stamps from one of these sets that Jane has got currently at the moment. I know there are more coming with the new range, but I wanted to have a play with these because I haven't quite gotten all my use out of them, and I haven't quite also worked out ways to Courtnify the Jane stuff. And by that I mean turning things into the kooky and the creepy and the weird, and I like to turn her beautiful things into the oddball stuff that I love and adore in my everyday art. So when I pulled these out, I was trying to work out a way to turn these beautiful eyes into something a little more whimsical and a little more odd, which is one of my favorite things to do. It's one of my favorite challenges actually, is to turn some of Jane's beautiful things into the strange. So today we're going to be playing with these sets of eyes and working on some monsters, and I will show you how turning these eyes like this can make a completely different emotion to whether they are sitting like this. And so you can see them like that, or you can just turn them down slightly and you get an instant different emotion, and I will show you that in this video. I'll show you this emotion from start to finish, and then I'll come in at the end and show you the different one with them straight on. And I am just working in my journal today. I need to get my journal finished. We're almost there. So I have a little bit to go, but I'm going to be creating a monster on this side of my journal page. So if you would like to create along with me, you're more than welcome to. I will be using the watercolors. Of course, it is World Watercolor Month, even though the month is almost over. So I thought I'd pop in with a watercolor video to have a play. I'll also be using my very favorite magic wands. They have been a tried and true pencil in my life that I've always been carrying around in my travel purse and in my everyday creating lately. So I'll definitely be using those because I love to use them in conjunction with the watercolors. So yeah, that is what we're going to do. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys soon. Enjoy! So I'm using the beautiful beaded brush, which is one of Jane's brushes that you can add the beads in yourself. It comes like this. It's got such a beautiful weight to it, and this is actually the first time that I'm actually using it, and I have fallen head over heels with this brush. I love that it takes watercolor in big bold strokes. The bristles are super soft and it just laps up and dances with the watercolor so beautifully. It's going to be something that I use. I've had them in my drawer for a while and I hadn't used it, and today I thought I needed to play around with this brush. It's always so beautiful to look at. I love the weight of it. I love that you can add your own beads to it if you want. You can turn it into a travel brush and collect beads from the places that you've been, but this was a great brush to do this big mottled background, and I'm using the Brights palette, my personal favorite. Now, the reason why we are doing the background page first, like this, in a very mottled, mishapped way, is so that you don't get stressed about the fact that you're working on a blank page. And the watercolor helps you feel a little bit looser. It will, like, you'll have a little play with your watercolors, just slap them on. Don't make mud. Try and do complementary colors, so all the cools together, all the warms together. And then you can use your colored pencils to add in warms over the top of cools and vice versa. That way you're not going to make mud with your watercolor. But definitely get this down, big large strokes, just have a play with your color, and that way you're not starting on a blank canvas, because blank pages seem to freak people out. They even freak me out. So get your background done, and this will help add a little bit of color and texture and stuff you cannot control when creating your monster. So I am just using a waterproof black ink. If you're going to use watercolor with your monsters and you're using the stamps, you need to use a ink that is waterproof. So once you've figured out what ink you want to use, I just tilt my eyes in slightly to give that furrowed, sort of sad looking look, and then I am coming in with my Jane Davenport fountain pen, and I have waterproof black ink inside this as well. When you get the fountain fountain pens, they come with a converter. I've just popped out the cartridge that comes with it and put in the converter and filled it up with Document black fountain pen ink, which means I know that it's not going to move when I put lashings of watercolor on this little monster. And I am altering those eyes to make them look a lot less Jane and also a lot less human. So I am sort of scrubbing out those eyelashes. I'm sort of chopping that sort of very Jane-like eye kick to the side. I'm basically trying to make them almost panda-like, even though I'm not drawing a panda, but I wanted to get the human aspect out of them and add a whole heap of scribbly inky lines around them to do so. And then I'm coming in with my lead pencil, and I'm only doing that because I hadn't 100% worked out exactly how I wanted my facial features to go. And obviously once you draw them in with ink, there ain't no going back. So I was not taking any chances. I had done a test drive, but I wasn't quite sure if the test drive was what I wanted to be the final outcome. So I did tweak it a little bit, and then once I've gotten it figured out, I just went back in with my ink pen and drew the lines, and I keep it very, very loose. Jane's wise words, everything is forgiven in a sketch, and I totally believe that. Sketchy, scribbly lines just make a whole multitude of things that you think is wrong forgivable. And definitely I like my monsters to be not so cut and dry. I like them to be a blurry around the edges. Again, coming in with my pencil as I work out a body shape and the big fat claws and things like that. And then I'm using this beautiful little travel brush, the detailer, to get into the sections of the face that I don't have a lot of control over, and then just using a water brush with a bigger tip to get a bit more looser. Sometimes I find myself worrying that if I use the beautiful detail brush, then I will get really caught up in the details. So if you want to be really controlled in your watercoloring, that brush is fantastic for it. But I like to be a little bit more loose and a little bit more free, so I tend to use the bigger bristle brushes and the water brush, the aqua brush. Actually, that was an ink brush for the Incredibles, but that was because it was the closest on hand. But never fear, they are fantastic regardless of which one you choose.
You want to leave this place where we grew up, this old town, just put it all behind. Remember you and I would always find somewhere to hide when we were kids, so we could see and hear the water run. The river's gonna cry when you're gone. River's gonna cry when you're gone, 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 gone. River's gonna cry when you're gone, 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 gone. River's gonna cry when you're gone, 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 gone. River's gonna cry when you're. River's gonna cry when you're. River's gonna cry when.
Basically, I am just playing with the same colors that I used in the model background and deepening them in sections and just getting them into those corners that I want to have more depth. So I'm using the purples, the blues, and the pinks. I added a little bit of yellow just to warm things up a little bit, but I'm just using the same colors that I used in the background, but in strategic spots. And that's basically all there is to it. So I will be playing, I'm playing with the magic wands now. That in my hand I have ink, which is a fantastic shadowing one. I love the magic wands for adding details in that I cannot really control with a paintbrush just yet. Or if I just want to do subtle shading, I will go with my magic wands as toppers. And I'm just adding some white highlights to sort of highlight the fur aspect, and just adding those little details, and really enjoying the process of creating this little monster.
River's gonna cry when you're, river's gonna cry when you're, river's gonna cry when you're gone. It's gonna cry, it's gonna cry. River's gonna cry when you're gone. It's gonna cry, it's gonna cry. You want to leave this place where we grew up, this old town, just leave it all behind. The river's gonna cry when you're gone. I'm gonna let the sun shine in today. Trying to make this darkness go away. I'll paint with colors and I'll sing until my lungs give out. I'm gonna let the sun shine in today. And I will leave my windows open so that I can hear the sound of people talking and the wind blowing in the trees. Will open up my eyes so I can see the light.
Because I was having so much fun with the monster on the other page, I decided to add the other monster in and do exactly the same thing, but making the other monster a little bit more warmer in tones. And you don't see me create the monster as in like draw it, because I already had drawn it off to the side as I was going to show you just exactly what it was. But I thought I'd color him on camera for you and show you how the straight type of eyes can look completely different to our little melancholy baby on the other side. Same thing with the beautiful beaded brush, just mottling that background to mimic the other side of my background. They're not exactly the same, but I didn't really want them to be. And now it is time to get the other monster up and going.
I will listen to the ocean, let its unsaid words be spoken, and I'll let my mind be carried by the waves. Oh, I will open up my eyes so I can see the light. Oh, and I'll try to spread my wings so I can fly. Oh, and the darkness starts to fade, feels like things are gonna go my way. I'm gonna let the sun shine in the day.
As you can see, the eye placement is normal, straight up, no tilts or anything like that, and it has a completely different look to the other monster that I showed you, and that was simply the same stamp set. I had just slightly tilted them and you get a completely different emotion. So if you played with those stamps in all different directions, you can get a plethora of emotions and create so many different looks for your girls, for your monsters, for your creatures. They are really, really versatile, and I urge you to have a play and to experiment. So I've just popped the little creature in and drawn him a body off camera, and I'm going back in with the neutrals palette again and adding in those little feathery furry bits with the detailer brush. This is a great little brush for getting those little things in. It carries a lot of punch for such a small little brush. Definitely having a blast with these little monsters. I am so happy with how they turned out, and I'm glad that I could find a way to show you two completely different looks using the same stamp set and such a simple little tweak to get two different looks as well, especially showing you something that involves watercolor with World Watercolor Month. So I really hope that you have your brights palette, your neutral palettes, or your glitzy palette, and you go to town creating with the watercolors and just having a blast. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again very soon. And that is it, my Davin peeps. I hope you've enjoyed this little take on using your eyes to create something that isn't quite human, and how tilting them and changing the direction of them can create two completely different emotions. I prefer the sad, lonely monster because that's how I draw a lot of my creatures. They have that sort of sad melancholy. They don't quite fit in that sort of misfit vibe. But I wanted to show you that with the same stamp set, purely just tilting them inwards to give that sort of furrowed, burrowed frown look, you can create two very different looking and feeling monsters. Actually, you could create more than just two, but I wanted to show you two. Otherwise, I'd be creating monsters until the cows came home. And that is all I'm going to do for you today. I'll probably just add my journaling to the back of my tip-in and on these pages, but that is something that I will do off camera. So I hope that you get out your watercolors for World Watercolor Month and have a blast with them, because they are fantastic, and you can always pop all your watercolor pictures using the Jane Davenport line in the Facebook group. I would love to see your take on using the eye stamps, either this set or there are other stamp sets with eyes in them, and I know Jane has a box of glances coming, but definitely we can use these while we wait for the new releases, and I want to see what sort of creatures you can create with Jane Davenport stamps and her beautiful watercolors. Have a fantastic week, Davin peeps, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!